So I feel like in my life I've gotten to work at a lot of different jobs. I was a paper boy. I was a table busser. I worked at Taco Bell for 3 years. I worked at a hardware store. I was a milkman. Drove a truck for two different companies. And in all those different jobs, I had different managers that were a part of that. And one of the things I've learned through the years was that there are great people, no matter what, but there are some good managers and there are bad managers. And oftentimes, I'll be honest, some of the managers that some people felt were their least favorite were the people that I always liked the most. Because I always felt like these people that were hard, they were sometimes the ones that made you work the hardest, but I felt like they really cared the most about the company we were working for, and that they really were concerned about how can we do what we're doing the very best. Tonight we're talking about stewardship, and we're talking about being managers, and the foundational truth that that we are managers, that God has put us in charge of what we have, that everything that we have comes from God, that he's given it to us, and we are managers of what we have. And that he's a God who's, looking at what we're doing with it, and that there is some accountability with that. What are you doing with what I've given you? And tonight, we're going to talk about tithing. We're going to talk about giving, and we're going to be talking about the different gifts we've been given. We're going to be thinking, I want us to be thinking about the way we spend our time. There's a lot of things that we've been given to manage. And the question is, am I giving that to God? Do I think about that? And I think even when you think about this, why am I doing this? If I am living my life for God, if I'm living it for Christ, how does that impact how I spend my time? How does it impact how I spend my money? How does it impact just as I look at my life and what time I've got? How do I look at, being a steward of this thing? And so I want us to think about that. And I realize that as you guys are here tonight, that you're in different places, that some of you guys are here most weeks because maybe your parents are making you do this. Maybe that for some of you guys, you love the friendships here, and so that's the number one thing. That's great. I'm glad, first of all, that you're here for whatever reason you're here. But we are talking some things that are really about some decisions you have to make in your life and think about making. And some of these are decisions that, as I think about the Old Testament, as I think about Joshua, and there's that verse in Joshua that talks about, after they have gone through the desert all those years, 40 years of wandering through the desert, and Moses has passed away, and they finally entered the promised land, and Joshua says, these words, "But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. Whether the God of your ancestors beyond the Euphrates, where they'd come from, that basically, whether it was the gods we knew before, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land we are now living, right now where we're at now. Or as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." And there does come this place where you've got to make that decision. Am I living for me, and I'm living for what right now makes sense? Or am I really living for the Lord? And as I think about stewardship and being managers of what we've been given, it really is one of those things where it's like, who am I living for? Because when I think about managers I've had in the past, I worked for people that were clearly in that job for themselves. They were about getting in, getting a paycheck, getting out. They didn't care at all about the company. They didn't care about the business making money. They didn't care about having integrity as they did it. They were all about, I'm going to get what I can get out of this. And you know what? The business didn't do as well. And I don't think they did as well. But those people that I knew that really were about understanding that, it's not just about me. This is harder work for me as well, but I've been hired to do this. I'm in charge of this. I've been given a responsibility, and I'm going to take this seriously. There was a difference in how that company ran. So I want us to think about, if I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and this is what I've been given in my life, everything, this truck that I have, the home that I have, the money that I have in my wallet, the money that I have in my pocket, the money to the bank, in all these things, if I'm a steward of this stuff, and if I'm thinking about what really matters most to God, how am I using that stuff to really further what he sees as important, what he's about? So I want you guys to talk about that tonight. I hope it's a good discussion. Hope you guys are having a good week. It's rainy, man. I hope this stuff passes. And anyway, I'm just hoping you're having a great night and have a great discussion.